put all our phones away. Am I going to have to separate the three of you? See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil back there. Yeah, so if we could put them on silent so you don't miss anything exciting. So just to introduce myself, my name is Jen Palacios. I am with the Julia Care team. I have been an agent for 12 years, going on 13. And out of those 12 years, for 6 years, I was strictly a buyer's agent. And I negotiated a lot of deals. In my very first year, I think I did, in my first full year, I did 27 deals. And of course, I didn't get all those. That's not just the number that I negotiated. I did a lot more than that. I used to track all of the offers that I had given, and then it just got sort of like, not as encouraging because you don't win all of your negotiations. So anyway, I'm going to talk to you today about negotiations and how to get a win-win out of it. So, that was good. Just a sec, sorry, my computer falls asleep every time I talk. So negotiation, bargaining, give and take, the process between two or more parties, each with its own aims, needs, and viewpoints, seeking to discover a common ground and reach an agreement to settle a matter of mutual concern or resolve a conflict. So Keller Williams is big on win-win, and when you're negotiating, you want to try to make sure you're doing win-win. So tell me first, how many people have done a deal, like done a negotiation, had to negotiate a deal? Okay, cool. And tell me, what are some examples of negotiation in everyday life? Not even in real estate. We're basically negotiating all the time, right? Has anyone been to like Jamaica, where you're in the market? Have you ever bartered? Negotiation, right? Anyone with small children or adult children or teenage children? I feel like you would be negotiating all the time. I feel like I negotiate with my dog all the time, and it's a lose-lose situation. So there's a lot of negotiating. There's two things that we're going to talk about today, and there's two aspects of negotiation. We need to negotiate with our client, right? So what are some things that we'd have to negotiate with our client?
Reasonable expectations.
Reasonable expectations, that's an excellent one. Sorry?
No.
Commission? Sometimes, yes. Anything else? So expectations just cover a lot, because with your client, you have to negotiate if they find the property. So let's talk about a buyer for example. If you have a buyer who's wanting to buy a property, then you need to negotiate with them what sort of price you're going to be going in at, right? You need to negotiate when you're in the showing, do they even like it? So there's a lot of aspects of negotiating on the client side. And then who else are you going to be negotiating if you're putting an offer in? Obviously, the other agent, right? So, and that's a big one, because you might find each other, now that you've been to this amazing negotiation talk, you're going to be using the same strategies against each other. What's going to happen if you run into each other in a negotiation? So we're going to go over some negotiating tips, and I'll give you some examples, and if anyone else has examples, and I'll also answer questions throughout. Anytime anyone has a question or needs clarification on something, please do let me know. So some of the things that they talk about negotiating tips. So when you're with, I don't know whether, do you want to talk, tell me what would make more sense to you, because the class notes are a little bit different than how I want to lay it out. Do we want to talk about negotiating strictly with your client? Like, should we go through the process of you found a place and we're negotiating with the client first, all the way up to now we're putting in an offer. So we'll do it sort of a systematic approach as if we're with a buyer and then we'd have to negotiate, okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so I have a buyer, Sally, and Sally and I went to go look at a house, and Sally loves the house. So how do I know she loves the house? She told me she loves the house, right? So, but has she loved every house that you've been to? That's the thing. Like, is she the kind of person that goes into a house and says, oh my gosh, I love this house, it's so perfect. This couch is so gorgeous where it's sitting, right? So that's, you're like, okay, so does she love everything? Or you go into a place that's completely, you know, the kind of place I think you all know that you don't want to take your shoes off when you go in. And she's like, oh my gosh, I love this place, the potential is incredible, blah, blah, blah. So she might be a glass half full all the time person. Or you might get a person, we'll say Betty, who just thinks everything's horrible. So walks in and is like, well, I suppose I could make it work. I mean, it's not the most ideal, but I guess I'll put an offer in. Has anyone ever had people like that? So when you have people who have put in 5 or 6 offers, they start to realize how easy it is to submit an offer. So then they start to get to the point where they're like, yeah, okay, I'm not going to get it anyway, right? The people like that, you have to be careful, and this is what I always say to them, you may actually get this one. So do you want this place? Do you want this house? Because I know you've lost the last 6 in multiple offers, but you might actually get this, and do you actually want it? Because the first offer to submit with a client it's hard. It's like getting them on paper, getting them to commit to that offer is like, but honestly, once they've done it once, they realize how easy it is. It's like, yeah, okay, let's offer on this one. So what I'm getting at is you want to really understand your client, and you want to know their wants and needs. When do you learn their wants and needs?
While you're looking.
While you're looking?
Or before you start looking.
Before you start looking. You've all probably done a thing about buyer consultations and stuff like that. Have you done that? Yeah. So at the buyer consultation part, that's not just like going through the steps because we told you need to meet with people before you go and show them. You need to remember what your client's wants and needs are. What is it the most important thing for them? Is it location? Is it the kitchen? Is it that they don't want to have to do any work, that it's turnkey? So if you go into a house and it's not turnkey and their number one most important thing to them was turnkey, then okay, now we start negotiating. Sally said, I really like it. And then I say, okay, but you said that the number one thing you wanted was a renovated kitchen, right? Well, I can renovate it, whatever. So when you're negotiating and you're going to push, so she's decided she wants to put an offer in. What would be the next step? So you've talked to Sally, she wants to put an offer in. It's not quite exactly what she wants. How do you know? There's 2 questions that I will ask, and I might not be at the negotiating stage yet, but I just want to make sure you guys know this stuff. That how do you know that this is the house for her? There's 2 questions that I ask my clients. Lisa?
Well, if this house sold tonight to somebody else, how would you feel the next day?
Exactly. So one thing I always say is, if it's sold tonight, would you be disappointed? And if they go, you know what, I would let this one go, okay. You know, if they say, actually, yeah, I would be gutted, then that sort of shows. The other thing is, do you see yourself living there? Right? If they walk into a house and they've already started placing their furniture, and they say, oh my gosh, I could put the kitty litter there, and I don't know how many times I've heard that. Where would I put the kitty litter? I put the kitty litter there, and this could be the little Jackie's room, and you know, when they start putting in the lazy boy will go in that corner, and they figured out that their 50-inch TV will actually fit in the living room, then you're thinking, okay, then that's something that they want. Now, if it's Betty and she's like, it's sort of what I want, but it's not the kitchen I want, when negotiating and you're going to be putting an offer, the one thing that I would say to her is, what is this house worth to you? Right? So what is the top dollar that you want to pay to get this house? What's it worth to you? Because I know, well, I don't know what it's worth. The agent has listed it, so I'm just going to talk round numbers in the notes that will be coming to a scenario, but one the scenario is, a house is on the market for $175,000. So it's clearly American, but so let's first round numbers, and I'm just going to say 500,000. So she's buying a house for 500,000. I'm not sure where it is, but if they've listed it at 500,000, $499, and there's 5 offers, right? That's when you're sort of like, where do you go? What do you guys do in that scenario? Has anyone been in that scenario where you've been in multiple offers? Or how do you figure out that price?
Well, we'll see what's around the area. That recently sold.
Yep, right, so you're looking on comparables, yeah.
And then if there's 5 offers, you could, some people do 5,000 per offer, 10,000 per offer.
Yeah. Yeah, right, so it used to be,
Yeah.
I agree. It used to be $10,000 per offer,
Yeah.
but now I feel like that's gone by the wayside because now houses are occasionally selling for 150, 200,000 over asking. So this is what I tell my clients. It's not always right, but if you've got 5 offers, you can count on one offer. Okay, this is totally not textbook, but this is how I think. One offer will be useless. So it will be either at list, and we're talking multiple offers here.
Yeah.
It'll be at list, it will have a condition.
Yeah.
It will be under asking because that poor agent couldn't talk the client into getting it at list. So 1 out, so now you're against 4. 2 will be around the same amount, so let's say it's 525, and then 2 are going to be 565, 570, like boom, right? When you are talking to your client, you want to be one of those top 2. You want to be in the running. Do you get a second chance in multiple offers?
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Always?
No.
No. So, when you're talking to your client, you never want to, well, again, this is what I do, is that a lot of times clients will say, you know what, okay, let's offer 560. I would go 570, but let's wait and hold back that $10,000 for the second round. Are you guaranteed the second round? No. If it sells for 565, and she put in 560 knowing she could go to 570, how is she going to feel? Pretty darn sad. So I have, again, another little thing that I always say is no regrets. I say to my clients, you go in with no regrets. If you lose it after we put this offer in, and that's the top of it, that's what if your max was 570 for this house, and you put in 570, or 571, or 569, sometimes I do an odd number, then you have no regrets. You wouldn't pay any more for that. And then they're like, yeah, but what if someone else comes in? Well, then we'll deal with that If another offer comes in at 570, or we both get asked back, so we obviously, when you get sent back, so in this scenario, say we put in 570, and the agent says, we've sent the other 3 agents home, and you and another agent are the top 2, right? Then you deal with that scenario. If she said, I'm not going over 570, do you just tell the listing agent then? Do you say, okay, we're out? What would you do in that scenario? So you've been told, the listing agent has phoned you and said, hi, I've sent 3 agents back, or sorry, I've sent the other 3 agents home, it's you and one other offer. Can your client improve?
Then you say, I'll talk to my client and ask and get back to you.
Right. Even, but my client said, there is no way I'm going over that.
Heard that one before.
Right, right.
So always.
And is it your choice to make that?
No.
Right? It's not your decision. You are the agent, so you are just the go-between, the negotiator, right? And this is exactly what you're doing. You're negotiating for this person because you know how to negotiate. So you're going to say to the agent, okay, and again, I say to them, listen, I really pushed them to their max on this one. This is pretty much the highest, but I'll go back and I'll ask them. Because I want to set that expectation and make that listing agent a bit nervous, right? He sent me back. We could walk, so could the other person, right? Because you all know in that scenario, if you're sending someone back in multiple offers, you could be left with nothing. If they haven't held on to an offer, they could be left with nothing. So I like to, negotiation is part, I don't want to say a game, but I say, listen, I've pushed them as high as I can go. They may not, I don't know whether they will, but I'll certainly ask because it's not my decision. So then I ask. And if they can go up, is it worth going up $1,000? If she says $1,000, is it worth me getting in my car and driving over there? Yeah, damn straight it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've won offers on strictly having the better deposit. So let alone having $1,000 more. If everything's equal, then they start going to other things. No, I've completely gone off my track. Is this all?
Good. No, it's good.
Is this helpful to you guys?
Yeah, I know it's good.
Okay. So, so we've convinced her, okay, not convinced, I won't say that. We've negotiated with our client. We've asked her to go in. We've said to her the 2 things about how do we get a sense that it's the best place for her. She can see herself living in there, and if it sold tonight or tomorrow, would she be devastated? Yes. We put the offer in, we talk about the offer, we talk, okay, there's 5. Is there a lot of difference between 5 offers, 7 offers, 9 offers, 12 offers, 15 offers?
Yeah. There is.
But after 9 offers, do you think there's
Right.
once it's 9 offers, it's like,
A lot of them are the same.
yeah. So again, in most multiple offer scenario, you're gonna have a percentage that is don't worry about them, a percentage that's gonna be in the clump, and then there's gonna be 1 or 2 that just hit the sky. And do you know who the people who usually are that hit the sky? The ones who have lost so many times, they're like, I am not doing this again. I have had clients bid more than I was comfortable them bidding. And I said, are you sure? I'm really not sure you should be going this. We are so tired of this. We just want to get this house. As it turns out, they did pay a lot for it, but of course it appreciated a ridiculous amount, and then they sold it for a ridiculous amount. But they do get, it's like that buyer fatigue that you hear about. They do hit a point, and you just have to be careful that they don't go without reason, because you're still responsible for making sure that the property appraises out. You've already probably talked about that.
Yeah.
So that's just something you want to keep in mind when you're bidding. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about negotiating. So, sorry, I keep going off on all these little tangents. Okay, so I'm going to go back on track for a second just to make sure that we cover some of the points on negotiating. Above all, be professional. Has anyone worked with some agents that are just like, how can I even be professional when I'm talking to this person?
I was at an open house on Saturday, and I toured the whole house, and then I was coming outside and I looked up at it, and I noticed there was a third floor.
Yeah.
And I asked the agent, I was like, oh, there's a third floor. We didn't see the third floor. And he came back to where I was standing, looked up at the house, and he was like, oh my God, there is a third floor. It's his listing.
Oh my God.
That's funny. Yeah, so, so know your product, but be professional. It's sometimes, there's so many different aspects of being professional. It's being professional with the other agent, be professional with your client. And one thing that sometimes I find hard, I get to know my clients quite well, so I feel like we're all, we're friends. It's hard when I'm having an issue with another agent. If I was with a friend, I'd be like, you can't even imagine this agent that I'm talking to. He's such a dick. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Facebook. But be careful not to talk too much about. Well, don't badmouth other agents to your client because that's not professional, and don't air any discretions you have about the agent. Like if he's doing a power struggle with you, don't bring your client into that. That's an agent-to-agent thing. If you're having your negotiations are your negotiations, but your client shouldn't have to be involved with any sort of dealings that you're having or any like butting heads with an agent. Obviously, a lot of negotiations go really smoothly and nicely, but there are some that you're just butting heads. There was one I honestly wanted to walk away, but that was my pride, right? Like, that's my pride wanting to walk away. Then I think back to and then I look at my clients, a young couple who, they're buying their first home, their first condo. They were so excited about it. Am I going to lose that for them because I'm having a power struggle with this guy? No. So I had to swallow my pride and just let him win.
Because it's all about the clients.
It is all about the clients.
It has nothing to do with you.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I'm going to agent open houses, and I'm meeting so many agents and just getting to know them, their style and stuff.
Yep.
So it comes in handy.
Yes, it does.
You
It
know?
does. Knowing the agents comes in handy. Knowing the houses comes in handy. That's a good point.
Yeah.
And there's something else I was going to say.
Their style or.
Oh, on the listing side, if you're the listing agent, in my opinion, you should be really nice to the buyer agents.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones selling your house. So if you're at an open house, not only know your product, but you should be really nice to those agents that are coming in. And if you are, if I phone and I say, hi, it's Jen from Keller Williams, my client and I just went and looked at your listing. Yeah. And I was wondering, yeah. I'm like, when someone phones me, hi, how are you? Thank you so much for showing the listing. How can I help you? What can I do to help you? What information I can get you? Like, you're going to be selling my place for me, so what can I do for you? Because that's really part of it, right? Don't be a bleh. Like, you need to be nice to those buyer agents because they're the ones who are going to be selling your listing. So I'm glad you brought that up because it was something I wanted to mention. So be professional. Remember your goal is to get a contract between, so you're negotiating with your client as well as with the agent. Control what you say to anyone involved in the transaction. That's what they say. Refer back to their motivation. And again, that's what I was saying, when you first meet with your client, their wants and needs, go back to that because you may really need that in the negotiation part. If, So my seller clients, they really want to sell their house and move. They're going to a rental because they're retiring, and this house is their nest egg, and they just want to move on. So I know that, right? I don't want to let any of the other people know that, but I know that. So when we're negotiating and someone comes in and says, you know, we've got such and such a price, it's not the best, it's not exactly what they wanted, but it's pretty darn close. I'm going to go back and circle back and say, listen, you want to move on. You want to get, you know, this is your nest egg, but you also want to go move on. You can't, like, especially, another example. People with young children, right? They've got young children, they have to clean up the house and get the kids out every time there's a showing if they haven't moved out. And say the offer is like $5,000 less than what the list was. Are you going to lose it for $5,000? Wouldn't it be nice if we actually got this deal, then you could get back to your normal life again. There's the disruption, it's getting the kids to, you know, is that worth $5,000 to you? So you go back to their wants and needs and circle back to help with the negotiation. Does that make sense to everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Don't reveal too much, but listen more than talk. Keep your client's motivation close to your chest. So that's when you're negotiating with a client or with an agent, you want to, you don't want to give them all the information about your client, obviously. But I think listening more than talking works in everything, right? So if you are talking to your client, like in a buyer consult, of course you need to go over some of the information. Listen to what they want, like listen to their needs, listen to their wants. When you're negotiating to say, okay, what do you think, like, what do you want to spend on this? Listen to them. When you're talking to the agent, other than when he goes, then listen to what they say. Because sometimes they'll give some stuff away if you listen closely. Like you can hear whether, well, they're out of town right now, but blah, blah, blah. Oh, what are they doing out of town? Like, ask questions. They don't have to answer, but you can certainly ask, because sometimes if you ask the question, like, I always ask, where are they going? You don't need to, as a listing agent, you don't need to answer that question. But sometimes, like when someone asks me, I'm like, I don't know what to say. Like, do I lie? So I often tell the truth, as long as it's not going to affect your client. So ask the questions because, and the other thing is like, if it's a really long closing, if you see a listing with a really long closing, what is your assumption on that?
They might have a house to sell.
Sorry?
They might have a house to sell.
Yeah, so, well, yes, so, or they might not have found a place to buy yet. Yeah, so, or if they've got a really short closing, so you're looking at a listing, it's 30 days closed. You're thinking, okay, they've already found a place, and they, or especially, and I would encourage you guys not to do this, try not to put a specific date, because if you put a specific date on your listing, then I'm going to know, oh, okay, then your people are closing on that date, and that's the date you need, and what's that to me?
Peace.
It's a negotiating, yes.
When I'm at like doing an open house, a lot of times, you know, people will come through, it's like, oh, why are they moving?
Yeah,
And I just want to be like, honestly, they're moving to Scarborough to be closer to their kids. But am I allowed to say that?
yeah. You should, if you're doing a listing for somebody else, just talk to the agent. If it's your own listing, talk to your clients and make sure that that's fine with them.
But otherwise, like,
I know.
what do you say? Like, I don't know. Like,
I
You know what I
know.
mean? Then
Like,
no one wants to deal with you.
You know, but that is a fairly basic answer. And I think I would say a basic answer, you just don't want to go into more.
In that situation, they're like, oh, have they bought yet? And then what do you say? Like, oh, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, how do you answer that? But they have. Like,
They're getting closer, or,
Getting closer,
you know,
okay. Yeah, yeah.
totally vague, right? They're close-ish, or I don't know, but you know what I mean, like, they're looking, you know,
yeah.
whatever, but you don't really want them to know that they have found something, because what are the, like, I'm getting ahead of myself. That's a very good point. Well, sorry. Oh, don't be attached to the outcome. How is that hard for us?
Because we want to take care of our clients' needs, and if it's something that they really love and want, we want to hopefully,
Right,
maybe
but
be
how else is it important to us? How is it hard for us?
Commission.
Correct. Right? It's hard. It is hard not to be attached to the outcome when you've got a whopping little commission check hanging in the air with every word that your client is saying about, am I gonna, maybe I'll offer this, and you're just like, oh, I can see it slipping away. It's like floating away. How many people, and you be honest or don't be honest or whatever, but can't figure out what their commission is when they're putting an offer in?
Wait, before the offer, I'm sorry.
Okay. So if you're showing a house, so if someone phones up and says, oh my God, I love this house, can we go see it? Would you think, okay, it's an $800,000 house?
Kind of, but like if I'm working with a buyer, I kind of know if they're looking at 1.2 where I'm kind of kidding.
Yeah.
I already would have figured it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not every time, but like.
But you already know
have an
that, yeah.
I know you shouldn't, but I already have it.
Yeah. It's hard not to. Well, it's math, right? And also, you're asking them to do a 5% deposit. So if you really were smart, you just cut that in half, boom, that's your commission. So, but I have been doing commission sales, like before real estate, I did 2 other jobs that were all commission. And I have never, ever counted my commission because it's like counting your chickens before they hatch. Is that an old school term?
Yeah.
What's
Whatever.
chicken?
Shush. So try not to think about that, because again, it will come back to you in spades by helping your client. So you're doing what's best for your client. If you let it pass and then it's not the best for them, or this is the top dollar that they can go, but you know it's going to go more, then either, if you're absolutely sure it's going to go more, sometimes I tell my clients, let's not bid on this because you're actually just inflating the price by being more offers. But you have to be pretty darn sure.
That was a question I had, is how to negotiate that conversation with the client.
Yeah, so say you're looking at a condo that's worth 400 and there's 7 offers and the most they can go is 410, but you know everything's been going for like 480, then I would say to my client, you know what, but they're like, oh yeah, but I really want to put an offer in. I would say, you know what, by you putting an offer in, you're now going to make it 8 offers. There's already 7, you're going to make it 8, and now that person who is going to go in at like 480 is probably now going to go in at 485 or 490. You've just inflated that price. Does everyone understand that?
Yeah.
So if it's like they're going in and asking, I would say, you know what, maybe let's find another one. Does everyone understand that? Does everyone agree with me? You don't have to agree with me.
Do you get pushback ever from the client on that?
Yeah, and if they do, if
Just
they
put
say
in the
no, but I
offer.
still want to, yeah, sure, absolutely.
Done.
Then let's do it.
Right.
And if anything, you've got them on paper. But it also shows them the commitment that you have to what's best for them, and it's not monetary for you.
Right.
Because you're basically saying, I don't want you to offer, right? There's no chance in hell I'm gonna make any money now because I'm telling you not even to offer on this place. And I think that alone builds trust, because the best thing you can do is have trust with your client. Like, if your client trusts you, then they won't give you pushback. So the whole thing is building trust with your client. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So regarding condo townhouses, there's the status certificate, and that can be a condition, and there's potentially a condition on finance. I understand more and more people are doing inspections on condo townhouses as well.
Yes.
So is that like a common condition or clause that people are more and more putting in, and that's the only one if everything checks out with the status and also the finance?
Yeah.
If you could talk to that, yeah, that's just my question.
Yeah, so as far as negotiating with the seller or the buyer or both?
Well, I think, for instance, I have a buyer that's thinking that they might like an inspection done on this condo townhouse that we saw. And we said, sure, more and more people are doing that. Typically then you as the buyer would pay for it, but I'm thinking about the offer that I might put together for them.
Okay. So if you're in multiples, there is a risk that
Sure.
they would be clean, right? But more and more times, people are putting conditions of home inspection, and a lot more people are putting conditions of financing because of the stress test and everything like that. So, but you are still taking a risk because old school agents are still thinking, no, you can't have any conditions whatsoever. But the other thing you could do is do a home inspection before the offer night.
And pay for it.
And
I was
they
just
would
wondering
pay for
about
that.
that, because then they pay for it and then they could still lose it, but yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you, when they do that, they're very invested in getting it.
Yeah, so that's.
Because they've just paid $500.
Yeah,
Usually, well, for a condo townhouse, it might not be $500, but still you're paying for an inspection beforehand. So they're very invested on hopefully winning that deal.
Have you ever
But
paid
that's-
for the inspection as part of your negotiation with your buyers? Like, oh, I'll take care of this,
No.
if that means you'll go X.
As a buyer agent, I rarely do anything like that
Right.
because I feel like, I mean, yeah, no, I would never offer to pay for it.
so Jen, just to clarify, do you prefer to do the inspection before the offer or to put it in the offer?
It depends, like, if you, so again, you can get a lot of information from the agent. If you say to the agent, what's the activity like? So whenever I'm interested in a property, so my clients say they've gone to an open house, or we've done a showing and they're like, I really like it, we're gonna think about it. The first thing you need to do is get on the phone with that agent and ask them a question, or make sure that they know you're interested. Tell them that you want to be kept in the loop if there's any offers coming in, because you don't want a bully offer to come in without you knowing it, because you've got a client who's potential. So that's one, and then I always say, what's the activity then like? Like, you know, do you have a sense of how many offers? That's like a loaded question, right? Like, do you have a sense of how many offers there's gonna be? And they'll be like, well, we've had a lot of activity. So, you know, some will say, oh, there's been like 60 showings. It was a condo the other day. I was like, there's been like 60 showings. Okay, so if there's 60 showings on this, say it's your townhouse, chances are there's gonna be multiple offers.
But there's not, we're the first status certificate order, so,
And is there a specific offer date?
no, and it's in Mississauga, so
Oh.
that could be why.
If there's no offer date, then just put an offer conditional on home inspection. That's like a no-brainer. The only reason I would ever do a home inspection before is if it's a specific offer date.
Okay.
But if there's no offer date, offers any time, you get your offer in there right away.
Okay.
With condition, you can do financing and home inspection because you're the only offer right
Okay.
now.
Okay.
But you know how quickly that can change, like
Yeah, that's it.
24-hour irrevocable, right? Suddenly every client, every seller is out of the country for 24 hours. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? So instead of having an offer date, then they say offers any time with a 24-hour irrevocable. What does that 24 hours allow you?
To get one offer.
Right,
Yeah, because you put down that you've got an offer,
yep,
right? So everybody gets notified,
yeah.
right?
Can you just ignore that? Like, if I'm putting an offer on your property, you say I need 24 hours, I'm like, I'm giving you 12, this is my offer, take it or leave it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, the other 2 weeks ago, I put 24-hour revocable because my clients were in the Bahamas, and they left that morning. I get an offer in at 8 o'clock, and they gave me till 11 o'clock that night. I didn't even know whether my clients were in the country yet, like in the Bahamas yet. I didn't know what time they left because I was like texting them like, where are you guys?
Right.
So we were able to do everything via Facebook and DocuSign. If you guys don't know how to do an electronic signature, whether it be DocuSign or DocuSign, does everyone know, has everyone used one of those before? Put up your hand if you've used it before. If you've never used it, I strongly encourage you to figure it out as soon as possible. Because all of a sudden, you'll be in a scenario where you're like, oh my gosh, someone's across town, the offer, like say you're like, okay, I need to get this offer in, but you're somewhere else, you can jump on a computer, send it through DocuSign or through DocuSign right away. So I really encourage you to do that. Sorry, I totally missed out on your question or comment.
It's about doing like paying for the home inspection.
Yeah,
I was told not to do it because
yeah,
if something goes wrong, and then they will look at it like, oh, if the agent pays it and the home inspector is going to look at it like, write the report like little favor to the agent.
yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. It's for buyers for sure. I mean, we do pay for listing ones, and you're absolutely right. A lot of buyers still question whether it's a good, like, whether they can trust that report or not. That's,
We still don't pay even if we're listing. We'll say we do credit on closing.
oh, really?
Inspection. Because it's still, I don't know, my brokerage is like, if you still pay for it, I don't know, it's something to do that's like on you as opposed to them. So
Yeah.
it's all on them, it's really.
Yeah,
direct.
yeah, which
Yeah.
is fair. Yeah, yeah, like what you said,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Okay. Okay, does anyone have any questions so far? Okay. How are we doing? Okay, common points for points for negotiation. So, what is the number one thing that you're going to be negotiating with everyone on?
Right.
Price, right? So we talked about the price. So negotiating with your client about the price. So when I first meet a client, you want to talk about their budget and stuff like that. But if they're renting, if your client's renting and moving into a condo or a house, for closing dates, is that ideal? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Sorry? It's a good thing. Yeah. Why is that? Right. So, because when it comes down to it, the closing date can make or break the deal. Because if you've got someone who's needs 30 days because they're buying something, they've already bought something and they're moving, you don't have that same smugness of, oh yeah, well, we'll hold out, because you are running out of time. I did have a scenario where my clients had bought and we couldn't sell their house. And we were like within 2 weeks. And you can't get bridge financing without a firm offer. I have never been so stressed out for the month and a half that I was then. Because we had 2 more weeks before what I've just ruined someone's life because they bought a house with their family and now we can't sell their house. Like, it was so stressful. So that comes back to the age-old question, you buy first, sell first, whatever. We're not here to talk about that. But yeah, so the closing date is a very, a good one. Now, my notes here, and I don't know whether these were in your notes as well, but it says day of completion costs, and it says that sometimes the seller pays for the day of completion. I don't even know what they're talking about that, so I don't know if anyone
It's
else
gotta be
knows.
American too.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to do with the utilities and things of the property on the day of closing?
yeah, but that's disbursements by the lawyer, right? So I'm assuming this is American, and
It makes no sense.
yeah, it makes no sense to me. So we're not going to talk about it. Negotiating, one of the things that's always a tough one is negotiating repairs. So are you guys on are most of you on Facebook? Are any of you on the Realtor Hack or that Facebook? Did you see the guy who said it was his listing, and the buyers went in for their final visit, and there was water all over, like the place had fully flooded.
Oh.
So apparently the buyers he had allowed the buyers to go in and fix something before, and they had the water turned off, but I guess the buyers' people had probably left the water on. Anyway, that's one of the reasons why you don't ever let buyers do anything to your listing until it's closed. But did you read that, or did you?
I very briefly read it. I hate going on Facebook.
Well,
So-
there was 38 comments, and I was kind of like, no, I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
I
you
kind
don't
of
get
wanted to
into
know what
it.
happened, but but those kind of things are always tough. That's a tough negotiation of repairs. So there's the negotiation when you're putting an offer in. House is listed, it needs a new roof, right? So when you put your offer in, are you going to take into account that it needs a new roof? You are?
Yeah.
Do you think the listing agent has already taken into account?
Maybe.
Maybe, maybe not.
No.
So,
That's what they're gonna say anyways.
yeah, right? So that's a tough one. Again, all of this is contingent on the scenario. If you've got no offers and you're the only offer, then you can offer below and you can say, listen, you know, we really love the house and they think it's amazing, but it needs a new roof. And so we're giving you whatever, right? Does that make sense?
Just, may I?
Yeah.
So, I've obviously never put in an offer, I've been an agent for a week.
Oh, congratulations.
Is that type of conversation something you have on the phone before you even put your offer in? Like, hey, you know, we noticed the roof's a little, and yada yada, but we're gonna be registering an offer later today? Or is this something you're saying as you're presenting?
It really depends. You sort of
You
feel.
feel at that
Yeah,
agent or
yeah.
the situation as a
Yeah.
whole?
Yeah. Because and also depends how badly do your people want it.
Right.
So you sort of have to feel that all out. I don't know, that's not very helpful, but
How long it's been on the market.
yeah, how long it's been on the market, if there's a lot of other people looking at it, stuff like that. Because in my experience, it's more than negotiating with your client saying, listen, they've already priced it with that in mind.
Right.
That's actually what I usually say, because it's easier, not easier to negotiate with your client, but the chances are the agent has probably already taken into account that. And again, it depends on how many offers there are and stuff like that.
Right.
But one thing that I really want to get into is so I want to get into the presentation, because that's my favorite part. Is everyone okay? Do we need to stand up? Do I need to kick anyone's chair? No? Okay. Okay, so they're saying the 3P approach: prepare, present, and position. I had a rude joke there, but I can't say it. Anyway, so prepare. So know your goal, know your client, think ahead, set clear expectations. You are so right about the expectations. I think that's the biggest part when you are talking to your client, is setting the expectation, trying to let them know what they can expect. So you're going to be putting an offer in, you've discussed the price, and so I say, and I tell them, just like I said before, here's the scenario, there's 5 offers, blah, blah, blah. So you want to give them the expectation. And then I'll also say, if we're the top one, they'll probably call back and say, if we are one of the top ones, they'll call back and say, you're one of 2 offers, you're really close. Like, how many times have anyone heard that?
Mhm.
You're really close, so we're sending you back for more money. So they always say the same sort of thing. So I tell my client exactly what to expect. I say, so say they're going to put an offer in tonight. Okay, I'll meet you at the second cup, and we're going to go over all the documents and sign everything, and then I'm going to leave you at second cup. I'm going to go across the street, present my offer, and then I'll come back and sit and have coffee with you while the other agents present. And then they'll phone me when they know, and then either they'll say, congratulations, or I'm sorry, you didn't get it.
Okay, when they say you're really close,
Yep,
do you say, is mine higher or lower?
you can ask that. They don't,
And people have asked.
yeah, and you don't answer.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and I have an answer.
Yeah.
but they have asked.
Yeah, absolutely, because you got nothing to lose, right? I mean, and again, it depends on your relationship with the agent. Like, that's why right away I try to get a really good relationship with the agent.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, come on, like,
Is
close?
it
Like,
higher
what's
or
close to you?
lower?
Like, close to me is different than close to you. In condos, close to me is like $5,000. In a house, close is maybe $10,000. But I don't know, some agents for some reason think $20,000 is close. I personally think that's not, but I don't know, everyone has their own idea of close. But yeah, you can ask, you can say, am I higher? And some, well, you need a little to go. Or some people say, listen, you're the lowest of the three, which, yay for telling me. You're not supposed to tell them, right? Yes.
Do you always have your clients come with you to the presentation? Like, I mean, close by?
Yeah. Yeah, so in
Whenever
multiple
you're
offer,
yeah.
so the ideal scenario is to present whenever you can. Unfortunately, now a lot of times, a lot of agents are going with the email you're offering, right? Who's kidding who? It's easy. You don't have to face the people and tell them that you didn't get it. But as a buyer agent, it is so great to be able to meet the people. And also as a seller agent, it's nice to get that, for one, you can get the check right then. There's none of this like, okay, we gotta wait to disclose the thing till the morning. Presentation, if you can, still old school, present, whether you're on the buy side or the sell side. Does everyone agree with that?
Yeah.
You can disagree with me if you want. I'd like a
Well,
good,
you get some people emailing in, but the one that presents can change the offer, right?
Correct.
Your client.
yeah. But I mean, I've been pretty quick to change an offer on DocuSign. I'm pretty quick on DocuSign now. So but I don't have the check. I have a picture of the check.
Yeah.
In fact, I did win multiple offers a couple weeks ago, and I was so excited. I was like, I didn't think I'd get it, right? So the guy phones me and I'm like, hi. And he goes, congratulations. I went, what? And he goes, did I shock you? And I'm like, yeah, totally. I didn't think, because I thought he was going to send us back, because we just won it outright. And I was like, oh, okay. And I said, okay, well, I live really close to your office, so I'll come down and bring you the check. Hang up. I don't have the check. We did it by DocuSign. I have an email. I have a picture of the check. My client's in Scarborough. She's on her way to Hell's Half Acre. I don't even know where. So I get on the phone with her and I go, where are you? Where's the check? Get off the subway now. I call the agent back. I said, I'm sorry, in my excitement, I thought I had the check. I don't have the check. Can I bring it tomorrow? And he goes, no. He goes, you were really, really close with another person who has their check. Oh. I need the check now. Oh. Get off the subway! I jump in my car. I drive to Worden and St. Clair, find her at the subway station, get the check, jump in my car, drive, give the check to the agent. Right? But I didn't have the option to present. But still, it is nice because it's that whole check thing, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, I was so excited. Oh yeah, I'll bring the check over. Oh, I don't have it, but whatever. So, clear expectations. Okay, so you meet your client. So we're putting an offer in, I meet my client, I go over everything. Now, one thing that I do, and I learned this again the hard way, everything I'm telling you I've learned the hard way. I was in an offer, 21 offers. We were in Starbucks. My client was a lawyer. And of course, like, there's like all the excitement. I've been phoning, blah, 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 trying to figure out what's going on. There's 21 offers. I'm waiting for my turn. We're in Starbucks. We're about to sign everything. And I say, okay, so you're going to sign here? And she goes, okay, just a sec. I was like, what are you doing? She goes, well, she's a lawyer. She has to read everything that she's going to sign, right? And I'm like, well, we don't really have time for you to read everything. Well, I'm not signing anything that I don't read. In my head, I'm thinking, well, everyone else does. And they're standard forms, like, God, what's she gonna do, change something? I didn't say that out loud, but I said it in my head. Anyway, so now like on, I think web forms or something, there's a layman's terms, does anyone know this? Yeah. So you can get the offer, the agreement, purchase and sale, and the buyer representation agreement in layman's terms. And it's funny because the layman's terms will be 2 lines and the clause will be like 24 lines. But I always give that to my clients beforehand, or I suppose you could send them the link now or whatever. But I say, this is your homework. Please read this through. You can read the layman's terms, you can read the legalese, whichever you like. If you have any questions, please let me know, because on offer night, we won't have time to review all of this. We'll be talking about price, we'll be talking about, it's high emotions, there's a lot going on. The last thing you need to be doing is reading the clause about home inspections and blah, 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 right? So that takes away some of the fear because they've already read the document, and so you're getting them to sign something. The other thing is that it's not so much in the case of that other signing, what's it called? DocuSign, that other signing thing. But DocuSign, has anyone used DocuSign or signed on it? It goes, like someone actually just sent me a document to sign. There was no hope in hell that I was ever reading it. I mean, you can scroll back, but it really, like, you click on and then it goes, and then you click and then click, next page, and it just whips through. And you've just signed away your life. You don't need, like some of my clients, did you put that clause in there? And I say, yeah, because we didn't read it. Like, that's you have to be careful about DocuSign specifically because it does go really quickly, right?
Yeah, you're kind of trusting.
Yeah, you're kind of trusting that you got everything. So again, you might want to send it to them beforehand to review before you send it through DocuSign. I mean, you can read it through DocuSign. It's just once you get into that like clicking, boom, it's done. Okay, so you've got your client to sign everything. You've discussed the price. We're at the price. We're still at that $500,000 house, and we're now going to offer the $570 because that's the top, right? So we've negotiated with our client. Now we're going to present, okay? Has anyone presented an offer in person? Yeah. So do you like it? Do you not like it? How do you feel about it?
One time I said something so stupid that I still like kick myself to this day. Like, but I like walked in, it's kind of last minute. I was actually presenting it on behalf of somebody, which is even worse. But as soon as I walked in, the guy told me that he's like, oh yeah, someone died at my house. So, like, before I saw that, like, just want to let you know someone died at my house. And I was like, oh, okay. When I went in there and I was just like, yeah, like my clients are super interested, blah, blah, going on and on. And like, you know, someone died in their house, so they're looking to start a fresh new start. And then I was just like, oh my, because obviously the listing agent's going to be like, they're not going to be able to close, they're not going to be able to sell their house. And as soon as I said it, I was like, oh. So that was that one. But then I did another one where, I know, it was so, I thought to this day, like, I wake up at night, it's sweating about it. Then there was another time where I did an offer and the seller just did it like the other agent wanted to work with me in mine. So that worked out.
Yeah, and that's a great scenario because you are representing your clients. So your number one thing is that you want the sellers and the agent to like you, right? Because you're representing them. So anything that I can do to ingratiate myself with the sellers, I do. When I'm looking through the house or the condo, I sort of look at everything. So one of the things top of mind, I don't sail or anything, but I remember distinctly going into one of these houses and there was this giant picture of a sailboat and it was clearly their sailboat or something like that. So when I went into the offer presentation, when you go into your offer presentation, the listing agent should ask, maybe not, but they'll say, tell me about your clients, right? If they don't ask that, what do?
You tell them about
You tell them about your clients. You want to tell them about your clients because some people don't care, but I make them, I'm like, this is my time to present. I'm gonna take it, and I'm gonna, you know. So I went and presented, and I was like, hey, you know, congratulations, this is what I would say to the seller. Congratulations, it's so exciting for you tonight. You've got, you know, lots of offers, and it's an exciting night for you. Just to let you know about my clients, they love this house, blah, blah, blah. And I see that noticed that picture of the sailboat. My clients also sail, they belong to the yacht club, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll be like, oh yeah, we sail. Anyway, you take something about the house, or take something that you can try to connect with the sellers, right? I present to the seller, not to the agent. And I try to connect with the seller because they're the ones making the point, making the decision. Now the agent, if you are a listing agent, you're going to tell your sellers to poker face. That makes it harder to ingratiate yourself because you're basically, they've been told not to make a smile or anything. So that's hard. Work through it. Talk through it. Don't let that affect you because they've been told to put on a poker face, but they're probably inside smiling at your presentation. The other thing that I do when I'm presenting, and this is a little trick that someone else taught me, is when you present your offer, I always put the confirmation of cooperation on the top. Why do I do that? You can't answer. Okay. So they can see it. The confirmation of cooperation, yeah? Is there another reason? What's the first thing that a person looks at when you're getting an offer?
Yeah.
Right, so they're not going to listen to me because they're looking at that. As soon as I hand the offers over, I go, here are my offers. Let me tell you about my clients. If the front page is the front page of the offer, I'm talking and they're not, they're like, it's like Charlie Brown. So I always put the confirmation of cooperation on the top. Yes, sometimes they're flipping, but at least that prevents them from looking and, you know, taking it completely. Some of them are too polite to actually look, so they'll wait. So you want to give a little information about your clients, and you want to tell the seller, in my opinion, again, you guys, if you have a different take on it, why do your clients love the house? Like, sellers love that. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I love my condo where I live. And when I sell it, I want someone to be like, you know what I love? I love that patio. And I'd be like, I do too. Oh my God. And you want to try to connect with them. Like, they love your kitchen. They love, if they, you know, just some little thing that shows that you actually know what you're talking about. They love the location. They love that they can walk down to the St. Lawrence Market and grab something at Alex Farm Cheese.
This may be a stupid question, but do you make that up?
No.
What if you, like, what if
Okay,
my
okay.
client was an investor, let's say, or I do have a client right now, a buyer client who's an architect. She's most likely going to rip your kitchen off the back of your house and build an extension. So, like,
She loves the potential of this house.
right.
And in
Just
that,
frame it
yes,
differently.
and also in that case, you would really want to dwell on the neighborhood.
Right.
And do not say that they're going to rip it out.
Right.
Especially if it's like an older person, do not say that you're going to be ripping their
Yeah, where they raise their children.
in this house. This kitchen's going to go, you know, like, yeah.
My question is like saying that they love this so much, isn't it like kind of giving away like, oh, like.
Yeah, but you're in most cases, if you're in multiple offers,
Okay.
you gotta use whatever you can. I do see what you're saying, but you can always backtrack on it. They love it, but it still needs some work.
Like her new roof.
Right? Like, I mean, the roof still is peeling a lot on the south side, and, you know, the eaves troughs, blah, blah, blah. So,
If it's not a multiple, you could do that.
yeah, but I still, you don't want to get their back up right away. Like, that's the whole thing, is that I try to make sure that they're calm and, you know, they're liking everything until you start using but the roof is bad. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to go in there guns a-blazing, saying, here's my offer. It's less than asking because that roof needs fixing and that's $10,000.
Next.
We're not paying it. That's not win-win. So you need to, you know what? You need to make them feel like they're winning too. And that's why if you go into a multiple, and I try not to ever say, this is our offer, that's all we can offer. Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it is tough. Because that's not a win-win. You're basically backing them into a corner right away. Like, you know what I mean? Even if it's been on the market for, gosh, 11 days. It's practically old news. It's been on the market 11 days, and you offer, and it's a condo, and you offer, you know, 15,000 below list. You're not going to say, it's, you know what, you've been on the market for 11 days, I've looked at the comparables, blah, blah, blah. Here's our offer, take it or leave it. That's the most, that's all we're doing. That's the most we're going to go. Well, maybe that's the most you're going to go in price, but there's still other things you can negotiate. Does anyone understand that? Do you get me on that one? Oh, the other thing, and I tell the team this as well, is that because a lot of times we can't present, email an offer in. I strongly encourage you to write a letter to the agent about your clients. And I will tell you, even when I lose offers, the agent phones me to say, listen, it doesn't happen very often, but I'm calling to let you know, like, I'm sorry, we're working with another offer, but my clients really liked the letter that you sent. So I send an email. It literally is, dear whatever, listing agent. Enclosed is my offer. My client, Betty, is a young professional who works downtown. She absolutely loves the condo. She loves the south-facing light that comes in. And just recently, one of the things I did say, which is true, my client was so happy that the laundry room you could actually step into as opposed to it being a closet. And the agent said that his client got a kick out of that and loved the detail of how much, you know, like, and that was something my client liked. So I put it in my little letter, and it worked. I mean, of course, the money also works, but you also, if everything else is equal and they don't like the other agent, they're going to work with you. Like it worked for you, right?
We had a client that somebody sent a letter, he's like, I don't care about this shit. He was so mad about it. He's like, I don't want to read about them. He's like, I don't care. He's like, I just want them to like come up with their price. And I went down and I'm like, oh, I just didn't like the font of the letter. I told him, like, I agree with you, because it was a weird font, but I was just like, geez, he's just like, take that away.
Yeah.
So I mean, it goes, like, I'll do like a little blurb,
Yeah.
like to their agent, but when my client had that letter, he was just like,
Yeah, sorry, mine is a blurb to the agent.
Yeah.
Mine's not a letter, but I know Tyler and our team has had a lot of success in, Holly as well, having their client write a letter.
Yeah, that's what they did, yeah.
I've
Yeah.
done that
Yeah.
as a person buying.
Yeah, so I haven't done that because I think I'm great, so I like to talk about, you know, my clients. Because I kind of think, personally, I don't know that I would want to read it, so I would rather sort of talk to them about it. And if I can't talk to them about it, and I'll just send a short email. But you're right. I think the long emails, they're good. And again, a friend of mine just got a property in the country because of her letter. And she got it below list because it was an older woman, and she got the sense that, the older woman got the sense that my friend was going to share the same, you know, qualities and everything that she had when she first bought the place. So it does help. It certainly doesn't hurt. You don't always know whether they ball it up or toss it in the trash. But if I'm presenting, I don't usually present a letter because that's what I'm thinking. If I'm presenting, I would rather present my clients than hand a letter and say, you know,
Read this on your own time.
yeah, yeah. While I sit there, being awkward while you read. And then if it was me, they'd see how slow I read. And I'd be like,
Like, I'm sorry.
yeah, with my finger. Oh, I don't have my glasses now. So, yeah. Okay, so we presented the offer and they've sent you out, so you present your offer, you give them, they've looked at everything. They will ask you usually at the time, what do you think your clients can go up in price? So when you're presenting, what do you say then? So I'm presenting my offer, I've finished presenting, they've looked it all over, and they're handing you the offer back, and then they say, do you think your clients can go up in price?
So you take it back.
Talk to your client.
Yeah, you go
Yeah.
talk to your client.
Yeah.
Talk to your client.
Yeah, so you never want to make that decision for them.
Yeah.
Even though they've said it, yeah, you just want to say, yeah. Are you leaving me?
I am sorry.
That's
Thank
okay.
you very
That's
much,
okay.
Chloe, it was great.
Oh, good, good.
Is
Good
that
luck.
a good sign, though?
I just have to go somewhere.
Is it a good sign that they're leaving?
No, I just have to
it's
go
not.
somewhere.
No, totally kidding.
No, but as you're presenting, right? As you're presenting the offer and then they,
Thank
you
you.
know, look
Yeah,
at it and then just say, so are they kind of saying you're way too low or? Is it a
it's tough
style
one.
or people
Yeah,
are sort of
sometimes.
teasing or?
Like, I try not to read it, it's hard to know, like, sometimes when you present, an agent will keep your offer with them,
Right,
and they'll say, do you mind if I keep this copy?
right.
And then I'm like, oh, what does that mean? Does that mean that I'm in the running? Or if they hand it back to me, they go, I'll give this back to you, and then you're just like, like, does that mean? Because technically, if they keep a copy, they still have you, right? Because they've got the copy that they could sign and then the deal's done. But if they give it back to you, technically they've got nothing unless they've kept someone else's copy, right? I try to read into it all the time. It's hard to know. Because some agents, and it also depends on their philosophy, some agents will not keep the copy because I don't know, one agent said to me, I can't keep a copy because of the legalities or something, so I'm giving them back to you, and I was like, okay.
No, but all offers are supposed to be kept for a year, right?
Right, so, but now with the Form 801, he doesn't actually have to keep, or she doesn't have to keep the actual offer.
Right,
They would
right.
have the form.
Oh, just the form?
Yeah.
Okay, just the
Yeah.
form. All
Right,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So you've presented your offer, you go back to your client, you're sitting there, and they phone. And they say, surprisingly, we've sent 3 offers back, home, and now you and one other offer are at the top. So can your client approve? Okay, let me talk to them and I'll get back to you. Okay. And then I say, have you told the other agent that as well? Or they will say that, because that's also, if the other offer is way above, sometimes they won't, because they're just trying to get us to equal. But most of the time, you'll ask both, because even if the other offer was higher, or we were higher, we're now gonna go even a little bit more higher, because we wanna make sure we've got it, because you don't know if you're the highest, right? So now you're negotiating, now again, you're back with your client negotiating. But this is a much easier negotiation because of your setup and your expectations, right? So you go to your client and say, it's just us and one other, what are we gonna do? And they go, I don't know, what do you think we should do? Can you give another 1,000? I know I've already pushed you to the top. I already pushed you to 570 and that was your max. Do you think you can, let's just give them another 1,000 as a good show of faith that we still want to play, but this is our absolute max. Yeah, okay, I can do that. Or, we didn't give them the closing they wanted. Do you think maybe you can figure out your rental situation and and, you know, don't worry about that last month's rent because you've already paid it, and maybe you can move a bit sooner. Why don't we change the closing date? Right, so there's a couple things. So sometimes that $1,000, they'll be thinking, your client will be thinking, oh, what's $1,000 gonna make? But you might be ahead. And then that other offer could, if say you were at 570, and the other offer was at 568, and they jumped to 570, now that $1,000, that just put you into the winning position again. Right? Everyone see that?
When you go back and forth and offer, like what's the irrevocable time?
It usually, like in multiples, when you're there, it's like if offers are at 7, I usually put a 10 o'clock irrevocable, but if there's a lot of offers, I'll put 11, because it takes them a long time, you know? And the other thing is that sometimes I've been in a situation where my irrevocable was 10 o'clock and it's been like 9:45, and we're just like, you know, I've just screwed myself because now I'm like trying to get my client, I'm like, we only have 15 more minutes because I put the 10 o'clock irrevocable. So if you want to give yourself some time, I usually put 11. I would put 11. I sometimes just put 10 because I want to get home to watch Grey's Anatomy or something. Anyone watch Grey's Anatomy?
Oh,
Damn.
I love that show.
It's such a good show.
You and I,
Yeah.
Anyway, so you can negotiate closing dates?
Yep.
The price?
Yep.
And get rid of any, so say you did have clauses, I guess.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yep.
Clear it all, clear the table, and that just might be.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what the other offer has.
Right. Sometimes the agent will say, it's you and the other, but I'm just going to be honest, their offer is firm.
Okay,
Right.
firm, yeah, so that's
So if
key.
their offer is firm and we've got a condition of financing, they've just sort of said, you get rid of that financing and maybe it'll, you know,
Right.
so. I've also had agents who have said, if you can, they're looking for this number, if you can hit that number, then it's yours. Which is not ethical, like you're not supposed to do that, but I've got to tell you, when you're on the buying side and someone gives you the actual number and your client's willing to do that number, it's like a present, right? So you haven't done anything wrong because it's the agent who told you that number.
Sometimes the agent has permission from the clients to give the number.
Yes, exactly. So, yep.
What if the other listing agent reduces his commission and says it's yours if you,
If we,
yeah.
yeah, so sometimes they will
That's
say
a tough
that.
one, because
Yeah.
it's not about the client, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as a buyer agent, has anyone reduced their commission as a buyer agent?
Not really allowed to unless you get permission.
You
That's
are?
how it is, yeah.
Yeah, okay. What about, so do you have to ask them?
Yes, or they just prefer you do it without anyone knowing anything, you just do it offline, like give them a check after.
Oh, okay. Has anyone reduced their commission on the sell side?
Yes,
Yeah.
especially when you're helping
Have you
sell
done
on the
listing
side.
yet? Did you do it full 2.5% or 5%?
If it was, most of the time it's just an individual transaction, you have 5%, otherwise if they're buying and selling, then we'll put them down.
Nice, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, you look, I just assumed you had done so many deals that you could. So I don't like to cut commission on either side. We give a deal as if they buy and sell. But quite honestly, on the buy side, I'm way more committed to not ever giving in commission. Because why should I buy your house for you? Right? Like, that's how I think about it, but maybe that's just mean. But if they can't afford it, why do I have to pay for it? Do you know what I'm saying? So I try not to cut commission on the buy side. Now, having said that, if you are, desperate for a deal and you're like, oh my God, 10,000 is better than 12,000 for commission or whatever, then I guess, yes. But it's a slippery slope, because once you start cutting your commission, it's a slippery slope. And then people start talking, and, well, they can get commission from me, so, anyway, I try not to.
Yeah, it's only going back to the clients and saying, that if I agree to cut my commission, it's yours, Like, he won't say it like that, but
Yeah.
that's the bottom line, like, they come back, because you have to tell them, right?
Right, but quite honestly, a better thing would be, do you really want to lose this over $10,000 or $5,000? Like, I'll often use to say that.
Right.
We're not quite there. They need a certain amount, and
Right.
we're so close. Do you really want to, like this, you love this house, and then go back to the emotional, right?
Yes.
You love this house, it's the kitchen you want, it's the location you want. Do you really want to lose it over $10,000?
True.
And then I don't have to give you any money. So, okay, so then we've counter offered, and yeah, does anyone have any questions? I'm trying to think. So we were supposed to do some scenarios. Do you guys want to do scenarios? Do you like doing scenarios? Okay. Let me see what else I have in my notes. Whenever, like I said, I just want to reiterate that whenever you're doing, putting in your offer in a multiple offer situation, your goal is obviously the best, to be the top number, but you just want to try to be in those top two, right? Because you may not get a second chance. Just always remember, to get your client to go with no regrets, you may not get a second chance. So if they're saying, well, we're going to hold back $5,000, just remind them of that. How would you feel if? You don't want to bully them, but at the same time, you need to lay out what's going on. Okay. Okay, we got two scenarios here. Okay. Choose a partner. Everyone choose a partner. One person will play the buyer sales representative, and the other play the listing sales representative. Do you want to divide amongst yourselves?
What buyer and,
For what?
One person's going to be the buyer, one person's the seller,
yeah.
but we need to figure out who's paired up.
Lisa needs someone.
We'll do us three, do you guys want to do two too?
Oh,
let's
Lisa, yeah, so Lisa, do you have a partner? No. Okay, so when Lisa comes back, you guys can be partner. Okay, so the scenario. The property has 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, and is listed at $350 in a well-established neighborhood. The house requires new carpeting throughout the first floor and a new garage door opener. 3 offers have been made, but all were well below the asking price. The buyer sales representative role. Does everyone know who the buyer sales rep is? Okay, buyer sales rep. Your buyers are making an offer of $340 for the house. They have been pre-approved. The buyers would like to close in the shortest time possible since they are moving from out of state, province, and need a home for their family. Since they are leaving their appliances in their current home, the buyers would also like all of the appliances to be included. Clear this is American. Listing. Your sellers have raised their family in the house you are selling and have many friends and family in the area. Since their children are now grown, they no longer need the amount of space their current home provides, and have purchased a home in Florida. They would like to give all appliances to their daughter, who has gone through a divorce. They will not be moving until they have sold their current house, and although they would like to get to Florida as soon as possible, they are ready to stand their ground regarding the price. Okay? Lisa, you're up here. We're paired off here.
We're doing pairs.
Oh, okay.
So buyer, so everyone get what they're doing?
Yeah.
You're negotiating, so what are the key points here? We've got price, list price is $350.
Appliances.
Buyers are going in at $340. Buyers want the appliances. Sellers want to keep the appliances. Buyers want a short closing. Sellers want a longer closing.
It's a perfect scenario.
Perfect scenario. Discuss.
No. I'm keeping it all.
Do you have a scenario?
I guess.
So I've already.
Oh, okay.
So we're just pretending.
Obviously, it's been in the market for
It's $350.
for a day.
I'm on for 3 times.
You want to be the buyer?
We are the best of
Yeah,
it.
but that's the always the most direction, but just take it for it.
Our fault.
Although, we should be a variance. They're
Pretty much.
I want
Not that great a deal, I guess.
Yeah,
They
it's
want
bad.
to go in.
But it makes sense.
They want all the
But,
I want to keep all my.
Yeah, we know.
There's another people that she has to go back.
We really could have had the appliances.
So, let's,
Also, a lot of my buyers really like this,
Donate.
yeah, we have to go out and buy appliances.
As a buyer,
no, this is what
How
it's $350.
much work is going to
appliances in general, I'd say you can get brand new ones for,
in my opinion, better off giving with that.
Well, I
We do
do have
need
an
to
offer.
sell.
I do have an offer. And I just thought I would come reach out to
And
you just
your
to
daughter,
Great
client's daughter will have
So again.
new appliances.
Okay, well, we
They're
take-
also looking to.
Your call.
Right. Well, you know, appliances are of course part of what we'd like to keep.
I do know that.
However, there's also still a gap in the listing price and your offer price. As well as, I think we've already mentioned that we'd like longer closing date. We'll have some room for us to probably take less negotiate, but some of those we're gonna have to move on. So we need to potentially leave the appliances, but we'd like to see the offer come up with that.
So, go back to the clients, we can't do the price, so what we're gonna do for
Right now,
now
it's
is
still-
August versus your August today. We're funding your August for closing. Or that work?
Yeah, because like,
They'd be okay with
340 in August first, instead of 340
okay with
and.
the same
And I
thing.
get to roll the appliances?
so they.
Sure.
I get to roll the appliances, you want to do your own?
Get you
July 1st of
I
August?
can make it
I'm giving you August first, I'm giving you your closing date.
So you want to do?
sale or like temporary tax one
You want
day.
to do August 1st?
So there's a little movement on the closing day.
$5 grand.
You can offer what you want, keep the value.
I will do
Prices.
The price
345.
You have to
My
figure out-
total
Well, I
is-
think maybe we can meet the appliances are fairly new. They cost $2,400.
I think we gotta.
So I'm gonna split the cost on them.
Keep my
So
closing
we
water.
gotta do
$1,200 we got ourselves a deal.
Okay, and the
But I
appliances.
mentioned the details of
And you're,
I know they can do
Yes,
5
we are splitting cost on
Well,
it.
just try to, you know, we're trying to get away that big deal for it. But if you
Yeah,
don't want to do
because
it,
we're coming next month and we will be paying for hotel
And then we're
that much money for everything to make up save money.
You're welcome. Okay, well, there you go.
Right, no, it's good, it's good.
Well,
Yeah, I'll talk to you.
I love the bill for
I mean, technically, end of the day, like one
And you also
has
love
to
it.
Yeah.
run to the end.
I don't
Not
want to
like
do
talking to
Well, you can try it,
in the middle.
or,
I better not.
Literally 346. I guess it's
And they would say something like,
get something in writing.
like, if you just want to.
Can give both.
But,
And then money in that line, add something closing in where there's something back in writing.
It's hard to say. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Well, I had like they just always go like what means but you I would take.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Why is that a question?
But I love
The thing
it.
is like just like I
No, I think it's just nice to get it.
give them enough I was playing next to it and I'm like I had to give them
I
enough.
love it when I'm on vacation.
And that's what I
All my friends are
I gave him something.
yeah, like my fellow actually wanted more and gave me a thing lining out they want like 10, they want a price and come up 10,000 less. They know you and you're like my own brother.
sure enough it goes up and down. Sometimes
after that,
so there's a bit of a second
Right, but you usually hear revolt with all that line. You're just changing
but like now that we're
I'm not that.
So now, but we were
So now I don't want to use my business. I have capacity to do more.
first that you like, so say
Eventually outsource. And then you also have to you're write down the tasks that sometimes I know what they are, but
You're almost
communicating with them is going to be a challenge.
But you know, so rather than you know about this, that's why so now we're building.
Even if I did sometimes send the list from the old doesn't go to every house that you sell.
I wonder how many hours he's raised
What got you into it?
If not, the case,
There's one other provider every and he's over
So if you had multiple offers, you only took the top.
I didn't know I was there with that. There's like somebody that writes me up.
But that's a gamble, yeah.
I didn't know that's that well.
Hey, does everybody does everyone, did everyone figure out a happy medium in negotiation?
Yes.
Okay, let's just briefly go over, what did you guys decide on? What was your agreement?
We moved a little on the closing,
Yeah.
and did we come up with a price? What did we decide there?
Price, still kind of no.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, you're still in negotiations.
Well, no, we.
Or you're at an
I'm back.
impasse.
I went back to talk to my clients.
This isn't real.
I couldn't reach them though. They're on the subway or something.
Okay,
Yeah.
what about you guys?
So,
So we compromised with the price, $345,
Okay,
with the appliances.
so the buyers keep the appliances.
Mm-hmm.
She made a good point, she's like, why would your sellers want to look the appliances to your daughter's home when you're
okay,
actually buying them?
Sounds like a pain. And then longer closing. My clients were okay with that.
okay. Oh, you were in the bar, okay. Good, all right.
We came off on price of it and kept the appliances, negotiated appliances.
Okay, and what about the closing?
Yeah, we negotiated that so that they can come in and, we closed earlier.
Okay,
Yeah,
so the sellers made more concessions than the buyers on that?
yeah. Because they told us about their kids.
The
And my
heartstrings.
client, and my
Tugging
client.
at the heartstrings.
Yeah, my client, she's good. The
Yeah.
agent was so good with the kids, you know.
Yeah,
a few
bringing
little
that
kids.
into it.
Yeah.
All right, what about you guys?
So I was listing buyers. We almost had
An impasse?
an impasse, but we ended up, I got my appliances, I got my closing date, and we did 34250 was our price.
Okay,
So we went up, yes.
sweet, all right, good job, okay. What about you guys?
So we did a little differently, so we had one offer at the 340 with appliances, so we're gonna do two offers, one without the appliances, and that would be at 330, because then they would have to buy more, like the buyers would have to get new appliances, or 340 with appliances.
Wow. Are you the listing or the
The buyer.
buyer?
Mm.
And you're the listing?
And we moved it,
Yeah.
you moved it to close.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we haven't decided if they're going with or without the appliance. We just decided we're gonna present, say, okay, well, we know you want to take the appliances. If that's the case, then we'll go to 330.
Okay. So in your negotiation, that's a very good point, is to say, why would you want to take these appliances out and move, you know, whatever? But on the flip side, you could say, why do you want someone else's appliance?
Right.
Right? Like, again, you just sort of, you're a chameleon. Sometimes the appliances are great, sometimes they're like, why would you want those anyway?
Well, and you didn't tell us how old they are, like it could be a house that the appliances are 50
It was a lack
years
of
old.
information.
Yeah, you made it.
So when I was talking to those guys in the back that I don't know what your names are, but they made a very good point, which I forgot to mention. So when you're in multiple offers, as a listing agent, and you've got, someone's come in, they presented their offer, you send them back, you might keep the paper, you may not. What happens if, so I've got 5 offers in front of me, and your client starts to sign on one of them? So they start signing one of the 5 that you've got in front of you. What does that mean?
Yeah, you're in negotiations with them, yeah.
So those
Only
other
one.
4 are now like,
Yeah.
my point being, when you are in multiple offers and you're the listing agent, do not touch any of those offers with a pen. So when I say we were sent back, 2 offers were sent back, nobody signs anything at that point. You don't want to be touching any of those offers, because as a listing agent, as soon as your seller puts anything on that paper, you are now only working with that one buyer. And now, if you can't get that buyer up, then it's too late. You're already in negotiation, and now the ball is in their court, because when you counter offer, the ball is in the other person's court. You've lost all power, and you've also lost any ability to accept any other offers that have come in. That's why a conditional sale is sort of frustrating sometimes, because like, I don't know how many times it's happened where you sign a conditional sale and then someone will come along, has it sold yet? Because my clients are willing to offer, and you're just like, no.
I never believe that.
Yeah, I know, seriously, they say it all.
Where were you last week?
Yeah, exactly, where were you yesterday? So just remember that, do not sign it, if it's in multiples, don't touch it until you're absolutely sure that you've got everything. And also, get it in writing. So a lot of times we'll do verbal stuff over the phone with agents. So the agent will say, did you talk to your client? You can just give me a verbal, right? And I say, okay, well, I was able to get my client up to 572. Okay, we'll let you know. Or, I was able to get my client up to 572. Okay, put it in writing and send it to me. If 572 was great, then they're going to say put it in writing. If it's not, they're going, you know what, that's not going to cut it. Thank you very much. So that's why verbal is good in that it'll save you some time, but you still need to get it in writing. And as a listing agent, do not don't tell anyone else anything until you've got it in writing. The other thing is, and this has happened to me I don't know how many times, is once you've decided on which offer to accept, you might not want to call the other agents until it's been fully executed. Does anyone know why?
They might have walked away, no?
No. When you phone, like say I'm going to phone you and say, you know what, we decide to work with another offer. You might come back to me and go, what do they offer? I'll give you $10,000 more. My client really, really wants this. So you're working for the seller, right? You want what's best for them. And now this guy's just said, he can give me $10,000 more? I don't know what to do, but I've already told those people, blah, blah, blah. So then you're sort of in a quandary. So now I make sure it's fully signed and executed so I don't get into that, oh my God. So now I just say, I'm sorry, it's already signed. Because I've been in scenarios where do I go back now? Like I've already told them that they've got it, but now you're offering $10,000 more. And you know what I mean? It's an ethical thing, but then you're trying to do what's best for the seller. Does anyone see what I'm going at there? So just to save yourself, have them fully executed, so then when they're like, because I've had some really intense agents be like, why didn't you give me another chance? I could have totally come up, I would have blah, blah, blah. I'll say, I'm sorry, it's already executed. It's already done deal. Because if not, then they're like, I'll just come right now. Like my clients are right beside me. I can have the paperwork to the door in 2 minutes. And then my little heart's going, oh my God, what do I do?
And isn't it the other agent, the buyer agent, that should have come with a better offer? Like honestly, if you could have done it like when I sent you back, why are you coming?
Right.
Because they didn't use my no regrets.
Right.
They held back.
So now instead of, drawing at your poor strings, because you care about your clients, you want that extra $10,000, but you did what you were supposed to do, get the best.
Yeah.
And I would just say, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
it's
tough.
Like,
it's tough because
don't
some of
give
them,
me a number. Yeah.
like some people get really angry.
Well, they're angry at themselves, really.
Yeah, and then they
Because they
project
should've
onto you.
Oh, strong. It's terrible.
And so,
Yes.
so during the time that you try not to have any communication with them.
No, once it's signed, then I phone and say, I'm sorry, we've decided to work with another offer. Thank you so much. And I always thank them. If they've been a pleasure to work with, I say it's been great. I hope that we can do another deal in the future, or I hope we can try to work together in the future. Thank you for bringing it up. I think it's important to thank the buyer's agents for bringing offers in and be kind, because you may be on the other side. Always be kind to the other agents. You may be on the other side. You may be the buyer agent or the listing agent. They'll remember, But you want to have open communication. I'm just saying that sometimes it's like they can really go hard at you, being like, oh, give me a second chance. I swear to God, I can bring you more and have a shorter close, and we'll outdo everything that they've done it just puts you in a tough position. So now I always get it fully executed. Does that make sense? Okay, does anyone have any questions? Didn't really follow the PowerPoint presentation.
That's a good thing.
I don't think a lot of the, they follow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, did I cover everything that I was reminding?
Yeah,
Don't-
oh, the irrevocable, just
Yeah, I
so
was gonna ask
people know.
about irrevocable too.
On multiple offers, so
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
So Kathy came up with a good scenario. We've got 2 offers. I've sent them back. One's irrevocable at 9 o'clock and one's at 11 o'clock
Yeah.
p.m. So what I'm gonna say I've sent 2 agents back, like you and one other agent. The other agent's irrevocable is 9 p.m. So you need to let me know. We are making a decision within the next 10 minutes because it's 10 to 9. So
That's a little pressure.
you need to hurry it up, right? So you're adding pressure to them. So that's where a shorter irrevocable can help because you're putting pressure and then need to make that decision.
sometimes you see a 24-hour irrevocable, we were saying often you see it. Do you just connect with the listing agent and say, you know, are you able to present tonight? Because maybe sometimes they're not, like maybe the people are out of town or whatever, like,
Yeah, I would ask the agent,
is
why
12
is it-
hours acceptable?
Why is it 24
Yeah.
hours? And then if that's always a tough one because, you could try to put 11 o'clock tonight.
But they might not be around.
Right, but then they'll just say, you need to redo it.
Yeah.
But if not, you're pressuring them to do it at 11 o'clock tonight.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the bottom line is the listing agent also wants to get the deal done too, right?
Yeah.
So they're not just gonna be like, I said 24 hours.
Right. They're gonna be hungry.
Right, so if they can swing it, they'll swing it. Like when I had asked for 24 hours, I was given 3 hours.
Yes.
I'm gonna try to swing it. I'm not gonna be like, sorry, you didn't listen to my instructions.
Looks really good, but it's a few hours short.
So, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah, but if you know that the offer date is that date, and you might have multiple offers, like you should let your clients know that
Yes,
you might, and they really, really wanted that they should be, available.
yes,
because-
yes, that's the thing. If it's an offer night
Yeah.
and your client, you need to, I always say to my clients, if we've seen a house, they really like it, I go, make sure you're free on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Or you've got babysitting for one of I often do the offer in one person's name. Has anyone ever done that?
Oh, why?
So I do it in one person's name so that they can, because maybe the other one's at home babysitting.
Yeah, I try to do
I
that,
guess
but
it's not babysitting.
they are, and the listing agent didn't like to that, right? Well,
So I've done one person's name and then I put in a clause saying the buyer and seller agree to add an additional buyer, to amend this offer to add an additional buyer at a later date. So it's already in there, because when you do an amendment, you're sort of opening up your offer again. So if it's a clause in your offer, they already know, okay, we're gonna be doing an amendment, it's just simply to add Paul's name to it. Any other questions? If you guys ever have any questions about negotiating or anything else, you can always ask me, I'm always available, happy to answer questions or help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good,
Thank you
thanks
very
for
much.
coming out.
What's your
Thank you.
name?